My name's Kiran Chetry. I am a broadcast journalist. I've been an anchor for years, as well as a reporter on CNN, as well as the Fox News channel and in local markets. I have a pretty unique background, which I didn't realize at the time how unique it was. When I was younger, I was more embarrassed that I wasn't like everybody else. My father is a native Nepali, born in Kathmandu, and my mother is an American who was a Peace Corps volunteer in Nepal, and that's where she met my father. And they've been a big inspiration for me to try things out of my comfort zone, to do different things, to not be afraid to fail, and to not just do what's easy or what comes naturally, but to not be afraid to look silly or to do something that you end up realizing you're really not that great at, but at least you tried. Every day is a new opportunity, and that's what they instilled in me, this fearlessness. And what I always think of is it's a really interesting metaphor that I was born in Nepal, not a mountain climber. I prefer the ocean, even though Nepal is a landlocked country. But what I do think is really interesting is that Mount Everest was this unconquerable mountain, and people who first climbed it were the first people in the entire world who stood at the highest possible point. The rest of the world is below them, and many people died trying, but they kept climbing, and they did it. And it was this uncharted territory, and I find it interesting that that's where my mother found her life and found, her dream in both helping to teach English, but also finding the love of her life and having me, which I'm sure she's very happy about. But and the same thing for my dad. So here he is in a country where there's not as much opportunity as there should be. They're considered a third world or underdeveloped nation, but he wasn't afraid to come be an exchange student in America. His name's Hom Bahadur Koirala Chetry, and he lands in Indiana, and they're like, well, we're just going to call you George. And he ended up doing great and getting a bachelor's degree and going on to get a master's degree and getting to experience something that he never would have outside of his very, very small village in Kathmandu. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that my parents were very inspirational in helping me not be afraid to try new things and to not be afraid to fail. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that they were the people that they are because they helped me be the person that I am today. Well, much to the chagrin of my dad, who thinks that you either get a degree from the London School of Economics, which is his dream. For me, not my dream, because I would fail, like Econ 101. But in Nepal, and in a lot of countries, I think, where people are coming to America and the language is not their native language, they really value education, but they especially value education that is objective, meaning if you get an MD, or if you get a law degree, or if you are a biotechnical engineer or scientist. There is a safety in that, meaning a lot of people come to America for a better opportunity. Their parents sacrifice a lot, and they expect that you're going to get an education and you are going to live the American dream, or you're going to be better off than we were through education. So when I tell them I want to do television news, that's probably the equivalent of saying, I think I'm going to be a singer and an actress and a dancer and train orcas. So it's a subjective business, which means that somebody could think I was the greatest thing in the world, or somebody could think I was terrible, and holding up my liberal arts Bachelor of Arts in journalism doesn't make a difference. So my dad was not really into me being in journalism, but ever since I was little, I loved it. Not because I necessarily wanted to be in front of the camera. I just loved questioning the norm, being a skeptic about certain things, gleaning information, and then giving it to people or disseminating it in a way that helped inform or made people's lives better or more knowledgeable. They thought it was an interesting idea and a phase that I would grow out of, which I didn't. So I started out actually in a broad, they called it the Communication Arts Program. It was a pilot program at the middle school level for gifted and talented, and I'm using that term loosely because they did accept me. The point is that my parents encouraged me to do things and didn't always, bring me back to reality. So I decided that I didn't actually need to graduate from college or even apply, that I was so great at TV news that I could just send my resume tape out of high school and start working immediately in television in a local market. That didn't work out so well. So I ended up going to college, majoring in broadcast journalism, and getting an internship. And then I made my way around the country, Erie, Pennsylvania, and Sacramento, and then Fox News Channel, CNN, short time with E! News and the whole NBC family, and then back to CNN for a short time. What I remember, though, is that it didn't matter whether or not I, quote, made it. The fact that I got a chance to do what I love to do and actually got paid for it was just a bonus. I also laugh because I feel like you work way harder when you are just coming up and doing 80,000 more things, and then you make a ton of money when you have 15 assistants doing stuff for you. So I remember laughing about that whole notion and telling my parents that I will never forget the grunt work and the time that I worked in these small markets, because they were the building blocks that gave me the confidence so that if I'm sitting at the anchor desk and I find out that the Space Shuttle Columbia is blown up, I know what to do. What I always say to young kids is that there really isn't a shortcut. You have to learn, make your mistakes, and grow from that, because it doesn't only make you better at your craft, it actually instills a confidence in you that you know that you're good at what you're doing, so that you don't fall back on being defensive or making poor choices because you didn't actually feel like you earned where you were. And for me, maybe it's a cultural thing, but it was definitely important that I earned where I was. I earned my position. I didn't know anybody. I wasn't the daughter of a famous broadcaster before me. It was just me trying really hard. Every day I remember thinking, this is the day I'm just not going to make it. This is the day I'm going to mess up, and I'm not going to edit my piece on time, and it's not going to make it on the news, and then I'm going to get fired. And then every day when that didn't happen, I was like, whew, I made it another day. We've always lived below our means, saved for a rainy day, and it turned out that ended up being the right thing to do, because I went from being the morning anchor, making a very large sum of money, to having someone say, we're going to make a change. And thank God I saved for a rainy day, because my children's lives didn't have to completely become upended. I didn't have to do things that were against what I believed in. And by that, I just mean I didn't have to sort of sell out because I needed money. I was able to use the cushion that I saved for to figure out what I was passionate about. Now I'm involved in a lot of charitable work, and I do a lot of public speaking pro bono, and I realized that I have a passion for certain things that I wouldn't have known if I just was desperate to get that next job. And that had to do with the fact that my parents brought me up to save for a rainy day, and I definitely had my fair share of rainy days.